Yesterday's results subverted expectations, to say the least. And today we have a rematch of the 2017 MSI Finals as the representatives from LCK and LEC battle for a shot at North America in the finals. The two squads made their way into the arena just moments ago. And hello and welcome to the MSI Countdown, where we revel in the journeys of the teams competing today and break down what makes Clid an absolute monster until the timer reaches 0 and we jump into player introductions. Yesterday, nothing of particular note happened. Everything just went to expectations.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah. Wouldn't you all say?
Yeah.
Oh, right. That little thing about Team Liquid winning 3-1 over the world champions Invictus Gaming. That puts North America in the MSI final, where they'll face off against the winner of today's best of 5, SKT versus G2 Esports. Now, the performance from Team Liquid wasn't just amazing for the historical gravity of the situation, but also included those iconic highlight moments you crave from a best of 5 series.
And one of the biggest moments came early on in the series. Impact landing this route on Nico. When Team Liquid had no other forms of engage left, it looked like IG were going to take it.
Also had quite some shockwaves from Jensen. This one, obviously rookie, delivering the entire IG team in, trying to catch them, and then they get instantly shockwaved. He had one slightly earlier in the game as well. He hits 3 people. A lot of big, key clutch moments.
And the thing was, it was a completely different iteration of TL. And I know that you're talking about these iconic moments, these superstar plays, and even though it felt like Doublelift didn't get, like that flashy play that would go into the highlight package, my eyes were really on him and what that series meant for his career in terms of a turning point, if you will, of hopefully getting that mental blocker off of North America and unleashing them on an international stage.
I like that point, especially
Thank you.
the part. I really like the part. I also really like the part about Doublelift not necessarily being the big superstar when TL are succeeding, internationally. The fact that it actually was a massive team effort. There were so many other players with big moments like the ones we just saw here. Impacts, of course, Jensen's. Core JJ was the MVP of the series. Like, we've been in these situations before. We'd always feel like we're just looking to Doublelift. Not anymore.
Yeah, like I said yesterday, every single player on that team played really well and deserved the victory.
A huge step up for the Team Liquid organization after international performances last year. But while they move on to the finals, I think we need to one more time recognize Invictus Gaming, who exits the tournament here in the semis.
It's the most classic Invictus Gaming series I think I've ever seen. You get incredible highs and you get incredible lows. And it's the variance of this team that makes them so exciting and makes them into those superstars, but then unfortunately just did not have their day yesterday.
And they're an insanely fun team to watch play League of Legends too. They shook up the World Championship last year, and they did so at MSI this year, only dropping 1 game until this series.
I'm sure they'll be looking to come back with a vengeance then towards Worlds later this year. Today's series, though, is a rematch between 2 players who've been through roller coaster careers since the last time they faced off.
And how iconic. 2016 qualified G2 to the European scene, helmed by Perks, who the following year would write his name in Faker's blood on the international stage. But for all his domestic success, Perks never tasted an international title. And now he's not just hungry for it, he's starved. He role swapped to ADC, he brought on fan favorite caps, and Europe's villains of G2 finally came into MSI as heroes. And now they want to conquer more than just their European kingdom.
And we really have to go back to 2017 MSI in Brazil, the pictures on your screen right now, where you got to see the first successful international tournament for G2. They made the final, got to face SKT after obviously failing at Worlds and MSI the year before, and that really started this trend of G2 actually showing up internationally.
And that trend continued last year at Worlds. When Perks was still a mid laner on G2, they upset RNG in, at the time, what we were considering the biggest upset of all time.
And then the TL game happened, so you have another chance for Perks here.
Yeah, without a doubt. On the opposite side of the EU Titans, though, there's nothing short of a god when it comes to League of Legends.
The most decorated team of all time, helmed by the greatest player ever to touch the game. The golden era of SKT is past, and the unkillable Demon King humanized by his defeat to Samsung. But the hero of Korea has returned. And when your success is defined in years, not games, defeat is not an option. Faker is back, and more importantly, This time around, he is not the only godlike player among them.
And it just means more when Faker is in a tournament, when SKT is the team that you have to go through to put your stamp on the world. And it's not just about fighting them in the finals. You want every single opportunity you have to take a shot at the king and see if you can make him bleed.
And so many people echoing that sentiment of it means more when Faker is there, when SKT is there, because they lived through the dominant eras of this organization.
And it makes me so split today because I actually really want SKT to be the best team in the world again.
Really?
I think there
Get
is...
nostalgic for the old days?
I know it's only like, what, a year and a half ago?
Yeah.
But like,
So
there's
soon.
just something about like watching SKT at their peak play League of Legends and going into tournaments, knowing that you're going to get, SKT. But I think we can all live with a G2 win.
Could we, Deficio?
Yes, we
Would
could.
we really be able to survive in that world?
I'm sure we can.
All right.
I don't know if
If
Faker
I
can.
have to. All right, the next chapter in this matchup will take place in just about 25 minutes. But for now, we're taking a break. On the other side, we'll look at the flex picks and who in this matchup best pilots them. You won't want to miss it. Seeds.
I will say that how they use them is very different, but it's kind of like Faker uses it to dominate a game to like 1v9 carry and look like a god, and Caps and Wonder do use it very well in a side lane.
See? Okay, Faker sounded better when you said it like that, but I really like G2's Rise. I don't think Khan's Rise
I
is
will
that
say this.
scary.
I think-
Faker's Rise is fine, but Khan's not that scary.
I think Rise for G2 victory is actually much more important than
Okay.
a Rise for an SKT victory. I think SKT have a lot more tricks that they can look to that they don't need to rely as heavily on the Rise.
Kobe, what do you think?
Take notes. That's an argument I can get behind.
There we
Hey,
go.
mine-
So, do you agree with that sentiment?
No,
It's maybe
I'm
more.
still going with Faker.
I'm still going with Faker. Fair enough. Let's talk about Pyke then. This
Flex
pick came
pick
out.
Pyke.
Yes, flex pick Pyke came out for G2 earlier in the tournament.
Yeah, and this time around we don't have any SKT members. I'm sure that if they wanted to get crafty, maybe they could pull it out, but this is really about who is the best Pyke in the Beatles for G2 here. And frankly, I'm gonna go with Wonder. I think this tournament has been defined by so many flex picks and a lot of them going up into the top lane. And Pyke is this way where you can leave up a pick like a Jace, you're not forced to ban it, and now you have something to play around.
I promise you, Mickey is the best Pyke on this team.
Personally,
Really?
I'm
I've seen him
offended
miss
that
a lot
you
of
didn't
ults.
include Faker
So,
on this list.
Faker's Pyke is fine too.
I legitimately was going to go Caps for sure with this.
No. Mickey's
Yes,
Pyke.
because Caps put in more time during the time where mid lane Pyke was extremely powerful.
He did
put
play a
in
lot.
tons of games on it, and it was so critical in their flexible game where they're having to come up with an answer to the Sona Taric. Having multiple people roaming around.
See, these guys, the solo laners, they can make it work in these unique strategies. Mickey can take it in a standard strategy when Pyke is not even meta, it's not supposed to be good, and he can still carry the game with it.
Well, we just need each of these players to play it once in this series so we can
That would be great
settle
for
this
G2, I
debate
think.
once and for all. For a recap, though, of how SKT versus G2 shook out in groups, we're going to send it over to Shox, Azael, and Raz over in Taipei.
Thank you very much. We are indeed here on the floor, and just to let you guys know what the fan representation is looking like, a lot of SKT. Actually, overwhelmingly SKT signs.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, who would have thought? But I know that Caps' dad, though, the G2 dad, the Caps dad, he is running around and like trying to convert everyone to
there we
G2
go.
fandom. So
They don't have the quantity, but they have the quality.
yes, they have that sweetheart of a father of Caps. So, any case, back to the games, as Dash said, we're coming into a best of 5, which is a different beast. But I do think we still have to look back at those best of 1 games that G2 won over SKT, Raz, because those were very convincing, and we can't just throw those away.
Convincing because they came in with a lot of creativity. I love the fact that we were talking about flex picks on the desk there, just because the one person that comes to mind is Wonder when he came out with a Pyke and when he came out with a Jace in the first game of the main stage event, and being able to just dominate Khan with the help of Yanko. So, and you look at this series, you start the match by looking at Wonder.
And I think one of the most impressive things to me about G2 is not just that they picked the Jace and that they won lane, it's how they utilized it afterwards. They move around the map, they take the mid lane outer, they take the bot outer, and this is something G2 does so well to support any lanes that are falling behind.
I think that is a great point, because it would be easy to fall into the trap of saying, well, it's only the flex picks and it's only that craziness they bring to the Rift, but I feel like that would be taking down or taking away some of the strengths that G2 has in the rest of the game.
A lot of it comes down to it. Like, I know in the best of 1s, we've seen so many crazy picks from G2 for better or for worse, but out of this series seems like 2 of the best teams in terms of fundamentals, because you've already alluded to it. G2 in the mid game, excellent, side lane pressure, understanding of where to be in a lot of it comes down to, of course, Wonder, but also in Caps himself. I think Caps and Wonder are the dynamic duo because they have such strong understanding of when they can take side lane matchups. When we saw G2 go up against Cloud9 and that solo kill, Team Liquid, my goodness, because I'm talking about Jensen right now, and how fact that he was able to get that solo kill, not only the understanding of the matchup on that one, but just when he can go for it and when Jankos is leaning towards him.
Yeah, I like that we only talk about that first Team Liquid G2.
I mean, it's just that G2, I think, plays to their win conditions so well, and I think they know how to close out a game in a committed 1-3-1 better than any other team at this tournament. And I think, it is not a requirement that they do these crazy counter picks and surprise picks, but I do think it is their greatest strength because I believe they're the most flexible team at the tournament. And when you're going up against a team like SKT, when you're going up against Faker, you want to use every advantage that you have, and I think it's something that they certainly should be looking forward to.
Absolutely. You talked about possibly being best 1-3-1 team or whatnot, but the big question is which SKT is going to show up, because we know best of 1 SKT is not best of 5 SKT, no matter who is on that roster.
They come in well prepared. I think the preparation was coming in hot. The last day of group stage, we saw them just slam Invictus Gaming. And even though we talked about Faker quite heavily, Klid is the one member that you have to watch early game, late game. He is the best Lee Sin right now in the tournament, and so you have to be able to ban it away from him. I don't want to see him get that pick.
And I think something that is certainly concerning for G2 fans and a boon for SKT is people bucketed these two teams as you have the SKT and the Team Liquid, you have the G2 and the IG, and we saw how dominant G2 and IG were in the earlier stages, and TL rising up and taking down IG, does perhaps give SKT some insight into how to take down that style of team. But we'll see if G2 can kind of play something else.
I think that's a fantastic way to put it, and that's why it's so concerning going into this one as well, because I also think a lot of the things that G2 does well and they coincidentally struggle with being that they get early game leads, but they also tend to die and overcommit at times. SKT, even with some of the bad games in the group stage, they do great in the early game. They don't die as much at all, so it becomes more difficult to catch them out.
As they ended out the group stage, one thing that's incredibly scary on SKT is, I remember hearing at the event, just talking to people, like, they are that wall of fundamentals. That when they have a lead, like when they went up against Flash Wolves, you feel claustrophobic when you're on that team. Like, how do you pincer or like push past the vision? SKT are always ready to fight back.
Yeah, there is so much to this matchup. It's a very interesting stylistic one as well. We'll see how it plays out. Back over to you guys.
I think the sentiment is that there's more questions than there are answers coming into this best 5. Because I agree with everything that Azael, Raz, and Shrox are talking about. But after yesterday, the 2-0 victory that G2 had over SKT feels like it means nothing now. Yeah, without a doubt. I think a lot is up in the air given the victory for TL over IG and kind of that ramp up for SKT near the end of the group stage. But for years, North American fans ached for players that could make their region proud with flashy outplays or insane macro. But then there are the players who expertly body block just to say, I'm helping, presented by State Farm. In his series versus Invictus Gaming, Core JJ makes sure that Jensen and Doublelift make it out of the bot lane alive.
Leave bottom. Okay.
Oh, it's a fight.
I can TP, but both of us can TP. Hit the flash, I'm TPing. Hit the flash.
Nice. They no flash.
Can we fight?
Oh,
Guys, here. No flash. I don't have any, okay? I'm shielding you. Can you look, guys?
Jensen shows up behind Rookie. He's going to be rooted up and brought very low. Flashing out, but still stunned up. Core JJ with a nice interception of the overload.
Ning trying to get through. Doublelift does flash, so he doesn't get caught so early. Core JJ going to get the ignite, going to get the knockup and flash away. Then with Jensen and Rookie both teleporting in, they actually are able to pull them out of it. Flashing away is Jensen, and Core JJ is going to block that Q to make sure that Ning doesn't trade one more.
And Core JJ is certainly one that is helping a lot.
Oh, what a performance out of him last night. MVP for me of that series. When we return, Kobe and Spawn give you the rundown on what makes SKT's Klid one of the best players in this tournament. Don't go anywhere.
SKT, the amount of growth that they have made throughout the groups, it feels like that they have found their form, and they are looking scary moving into the best of 5s.
Facing SKT is a very big challenge, and yeah, they are SKT, there's not much to say. But we want to win the whole thing, and SKT is just the first step.
And that is a clean
assist.
I think the key things, we just kind of play as we did before, and I think we can take them now.
They're going for it. Wonder's moving in as the Abyssal Blades collapse. Faker's able to find that Emperor's Divide, keeping himself alive, but only for a moment. Perks grabbing the kill. In back-to-back games now, the European hopes have destroyed SK Telecom.
G2전을 2연패를 했는데 지금 보면은 G2는 좀 연패를 좀 많이 진 상태이고 저희는 연승도 하고 기세도 탄 상태여가지고 저희가 좀 더 적극적으로 할 수 있을 것 같고 졌기 때문에 꼭 이기고 싶습니다.
이번에 저희가 MSI 우승을 못하면 또 저의 국제대회 커리어에 빵꾸가 나는 거라서 굉장히 아쉬울 것 같고 우승을 목표로 하는 팀이다 보니까 4강전은 반드시 이겨야겠다는 마음가짐입니다.
I'm confident that they're going to show up, and I'm confident that Faker will play really strong in series. Faker has never lost in an international tournament before the final, so I'm pretty excited to give him the first loss.
Welcome back to MSI Countdown, where we are moments away from SKT versus G2. Spawn and I have been looking at Clid this entire tournament. He is an exceptional jungler, and many have said even the MVP of the entire tournament so far.
Yeah, and whilst SKT, renowned for their methodical mid-game play, this guy is all about the early game. You see his first blood rate, he's KDA at the tournament, but it's just not all about those ganks.
Exactly. It's not just about killing your opponents. It's also about his first place in wards placed and wards cleared per minute out of all junglers in the entire tournament. So let's take a look at some of the cerebral play that you get from a jungler like Clid. He does a lot of work to get himself in place to make those big game-changing plays.
And I want you to notice on the minimap, the ward on the blue buff right now of the Team Liquid lineup. So they know exactly where Smithy is starting. Smithy wants to go from red and get into the bottom lane to impact a gang. So as we roll out this clip, notice that as soon as Clid takes his red buff, he's going to make a V-line for this bottom lane, going around the wards, using the blast plant and impacting the game.
And as soon as the Team Liquid successful play, by the way, goes off, he immediately heads bottom lane. Team Liquid do get their level 2 first blood kill, but Clid not only answers that kill, but critically burns the flash from double lift and then sticks around to take advantage.
Yeah, so watch this, right? Stays on the bottom side, picks up with the Scuttle Crab, not wasting any time. As soon as double lift teleports back here, Clid once again visits this bottom lane. Now without flash, without teleport, double lift, a sitting duck, gets cleaned up. And because Core JJ is only level 1, not able to devour and save his 80 carry.
Now that is how you successfully camp a bottom lane. And Clid single-handedly turns around a successful Team Liquid first blood into a winning SKT bottom lane.
And now this clip is a little bit more about the vision. So take note, Clid wants to get in the top lane. So as we roll this one out, going to do the Scuttle Crab in between two pieces of vision. However, the crab will be picked up, so Clid ducks back into his jungle to try and throw off the gank target.
Yeah, just in case they were looking, they saw that Scuttle Crab get killed. He wants to get level 3 off of the blue buff here, and look at those two wards. For a regular jungler, there is no way to gank this Sylas, get your Kennen ahead, let the Kennen use that range advantage. But for Jarvan, he has more options.
Yeah, it certainly does. So he's going to pick up the Gromp, get that level 3 we were speaking about, and then going to head back into the Baron Pit. So as we roll this clip again, you'll notice that Clid doesn't, once again, waste any time. He's such a decisive pathing jungler, will go in between the vision, so will not be seen by the Shy, and times his gank very nicely with a creep wave, so the Shy only gets notification at the very last moment.
And because he's got his blue buff, cooldown for his EQ is back up, and it is a successful SKT first blood. Now that is a really good offensive look from Clid, but he also plays defensively. He can recognize the enemy team's win condition. Elise and Jace is a very classic matchup. Jace, super hard winning lane, pushes up the minions, and then dives their opponent with the Elise, dropping tower aggro with Repel.
However, because this is going to be the bottom side start here from Jankos, Clid knows that he needs to be able to pick up not only his red buff, but an additional 3 camps to be able to get the level
level 3 for the dive. Cleared on the Lee Sin has a better option here. He has a 3-camp clear to level 3, including blue, red, and Krugs, and will be able to get to the top side of the map first.
Exactly. He positions himself here, as you see when we zoom out the mini-map, for the play before it even happens. Expecting the gank, Clid positions himself defensively, and single-handedly, he will now ward off a G2 First Blood, and G2 denying a cannon minion wave from Khan. Clid now going to exchange with Cap, and he even sacrifices his health bar to ensure that they don't give up the First Blood, and that G2 don't get anything out of their roaming mid laner or their jungler pressure.
And this is 2 creep waves for Khan. It also means he doesn't have to burn any summoner spells, including the crucial TP, because we know this lane is going to come under fire as the game progresses. And notice the recall in the lane. It's just the little things that junglers can do to keep their top laners safe.
Offensive, defensive, Clid does it all. He is SKT's early game, and he is going to be a big factor in this series. Dash, take it back.
An absolutely standout performer throughout this entire tournament, Clid has been. But while we bask in the glory of Clid this tournament, it's important to harken back to what our friends in Taipei had said. G2 2-0'd SKT in the group stage, and they looked good doing it.
Yeah, and it wasn't necessarily through trying to attack the jungle. I think Jankos did have a good performance throughout the group stage of this tournament, but it felt like it was the solo laners and how Jankos was plugging into them that really led to a lot of G2 success, as well as playing those side lanes that Deficio was talking about earlier.
Yeah, I think obviously for G2 esports, I know for us this is something you also really love, is the amount of different plays that they can actually bring to the table. But what's super important about how peak G2 performs is that when they are in these side lanes, they're not necessarily looking to just group as 5 later and big team fights like we see other teams do. They actually want to stay, keep the map spread out, and you apply pressure multiple lanes at the same time because you have so many good players in these lanes, and you have creative players who know when to roam around. And I want to see that, because I think G2 kind of dropped the ball in that department during the later half of groups.
When they had so much success against SKT, I remember it very distinctly, where SKT took the Scuttle Crab in front of the Baron, they cleared out all the wards, they had something like an Azir, and then they're like, okay, we've secured this. G2, there's no way that they can go for this objective, and they leave. But the thing about G2 is they don't care about traditional League of Legends. They don't care about the rulebook, they throw that all out, and they immediately turned on the Baron, and they catch a team like SKT off guard. So don't play standard with them. Play with your food, play aggressive, play high tempo.
Well, that's how EU does it. G2 is squaring up against an SKT who has challenged the buckets or baskets people want to put them into.
You know me, Dash, not a fan of baskets or buckets.
Oh, no.
I don't think that SK Telecom deserves to be put in any type of kind of slow bucket that people have molded to them. They are a methodical team. And just looking even at Clid and the replays that Spawn and I have been going over, Clid himself is an early game for SKT.
Yep.
He does not play slow.
And also their lanes are actually very strong laners. So it would be very weird for them just to be super slow in the early game and not do anything, because Faker has won his lane actually most of the games if you just look at raw CS numbers. Khan is literally at your turret from minute 1 pushing. He just needs backup, a lot of backup from his jungler. So SKT, when they're drafting for it, can take over an early game, but it doesn't mean they necessarily are just over-forcing fights. And that's why they are a very smart team who still values the very safe play instead of taking all the high-risk plays.
And you can see that in their different play style. The fact of the matter is that when Caps and Faker are on the Rift, you have to talk about them, but Caps is a roaming mid laner. He likes to get out to those side lanes. And we know that Faker had his era. I mean, he's played every iteration of the mid game possible. He can be a roaming mid laner, but this tournament, he's been more about the Azir, he's been more about the Akali. He sits in his lane, he farms himself up, and then he waits for those team fights and kind of plays more to his team's direction.
It's actually very fascinating regarding Caps and the point you're making there, because I think Caps back in Europe and Caps internationally are playing very different. In Europe, a lot of times it actually feels like he's trying to just take over his own lane and become super strong individual, and he is a big carry. But internationally, he's willing very early on to sacrifice his lane. Level 3, we see him roam to top lane in the clip you showed there from the SKT game they played earlier. And it means for him that he's often actually the guy in the front line who is sacrificing himself, who's willing to die for his team, despite being one of the star players, and he's a mid laner. Faker is obviously playing very different.
Interestingly enough, from a stats point of view, SKT had the second highest goal difference at 15 out of the group stage, only behind IG, and then the largest goal difference at 20 of all teams in the group stage. So again, a team that's no stranger to creating early advantages and building that gold lead for themselves. With everything on the line, though, I want to hear from you guys. Who do you think will meet Team Liquid in the finals?
Kobe.
Me first?
Yeah, you first. You're sitting right next to me.
I'm going to go with SK Telecom then.
Really?
I can't stick with my prediction from cooldown where Deficio was right next to me.
He's still right next to you.
Yeah, I'm literally here. Still.
He's sitting right there.
I feel safer now.
Keep looking that way for some reason.
I'll protect you, Kobe. I got you.
Look me in the eyes when you say SKT will win.
Clid will win. I was reminded last night of a very old saying in League of Legends.
Yes?
Better jungler wins.
Better jungler wins. Deficio, what are you thinking here?
I'm going 3-2 G2
All right.
in this one. I think you can't really prep for them properly, which normally is a big advantage for SKT, because they're going to change some things up. They're going to go back to what worked for them in Europe, stick to side lanes, pressure over fights, and also their drafts, I think and I hope they'll be creative.
Frost?
Deficio's on the right side. It's 3-2 G2. 100% agree with everything you said.
Either way, all three of you are calling a 5-game series.
Yes.
I would kill for exactly that here today in our second semifinal. With that, I'm going to send it over to the stage for the player intros.
Hello， 所有来到和平篮球馆现场以及在线上电视上收看的观众朋友，大家好，大家好，大家好，안녕하세요，Hello everyone， 我是主持人丽珍。欢迎收看2019英雄联盟季中邀请赛4强赛第2天的赛程。今天比赛的胜者将会与昨天获胜的 Team Liquid 一起进入最后的总决赛。现在，让我们拿出最大的热情来欢迎今天要对战的2支队伍登场。首先，让我们欢迎蓝色方的队伍，来自 LCK 赛区的 SK Telecom T1。上路 Kong， 打野 Please， 中路 Faker， 下路 Teddy。辅助 Mata， 替补打野 Halu， 还有他们的教练 Jfa。让我们再次热情的掌声欢迎 SKT 战队。紧接着，让我们邀请红色方的队伍登场，他们是来自于欧洲 LEC 赛区的 G2 Esports。上路 Wonder。Youngos， 中路 Caps， 下路 Perks， 辅助 Mickey。替补辅助 Promise Q， 教练 Grabs， 让我们再次热情的掌声欢迎 G2 战队。 两支队伍已经蓄势待发，现在宣布2019英雄联盟季中邀请赛4强赛第2天的赛程，现在正式开始。
Welcome back! We're just about ready for SK Telecom to take on G2 Esports. I'm QuickShot, joined by Vedius and Papa Smithy. And Caps looked very excited to be on stage. His dad was in the crowd as well. And Papa Smithy, we've got a spicy game ahead of us.
I mean, Taipei is bubbling, we're ready to jump up and down like Kobe was yesterday. And which way it goes is so up in the air. We had a moment in time yesterday. Another one is going to be made today.
I got terrified because one of the things that came out of our big story meeting when we were preparing for today's broadcast was IG went 2-0 over Team Liquid in groups.
How'd that work out?
Not very well. I'm very trepidatious and nervous, but these two teams have met many times in the past. It's 7 wins, 3 losses in favor of SK Telecom. The last time they met in an MSI playoff was the final back in 2017, but the stakes and the circumstances are very different this time around.
Back then is when Perks really made a name for himself on the international stage, finding a slew of solo kills and assisted kills onto Faker and putting up a very solid fight. Even to the point in which Faker quoted that this current G2 was not that much different from the previous one that he fought.
I still feel like both teams are richer for the journey after that MSI 2017. Because remember, while the SKT era ended with that loss to Samsung Galaxy in the final in 2017, that was the last tournament they went out and won. That was that big win for them at MSI. And then from there, the change. We only have 2 common players from the 10 that were fielded on that MSI 2017 final.
It's insane, and one of them role swapped, you know, to get away from the...
That's right.
Well, that's the way you want to look at it, of course, yes. Because there's an upgrade in the mid lane. It is Caps, it's the guy that we were talking about a moment or two ago. Let's dial in as the players are seated. What are going to be the priority picks here? We know that Ryze, Silas, Akali have been, you know, tournament defining, but what else should I be considering, Vedius?
Well, my biggest question is how much do SKT value the Jace? Because we've already seen that G2 have come prepared with picks like the Pike, and you would have to imagine that they have other things prepared as well. So will G2 let it through the draft? Will SKT still put that much value